Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for joining our webinar. We'll be starting shortly.
Afternoon, everybody. Where are you all from? If you could type in your chat where you are coming from in the UK. I'm in sunny Glasgow. It's the sun splitting the sky here for once. It's not raining. Mixed bag, a lot from Rotherham. Nobody from Birmingham. It's supposed to be a bit lively down there at the moment.
Well, welcome everyone to our Wednesday webinar. So today we'll be talking about rodenticides, and John Stewart will be delivering the talk. So as usual, if you've got any questions, please use the Q&A option at the bottom. And then yeah, if you want to use the chat, then you can use that as well. But yeah, any questions, let us know, and we'll answer them at the end of the presentation.
Good afternoon, everybody. So I'm going to talk about tools of the trade and mastering rodent inspections and rodenticide applications. So there's a little bit of everything in here. So hopefully you should be able to take something away from this. So, okay. So we're going to look at rodent inspections, tools of the trade, treatment strategies, rodenticides and safe application, and advantages of our products, because we're launching a new range of rodenticides, which I'm quite excited about. So when it comes to inspections, really that is the cornerstone to controlling infestation. Without really understanding what they're utilising, it's very difficult to control them, because we need to find out what resources they're using, food, water and harbourage. And once we've established that, we can get a better grasp of how to control them. That's what sets us apart from Joe Public. Anybody can go buy rodenticide from B&Q or wherever, but the key and the sort of the success is us as professionals. We understand biology and behaviour, so we know where to place bait and how to best manage the infestation. Because it's not just about putting bait down or traps down. We need to try and find the root cause. So we've probably all seen this or something similar to it, the pest triangle. It's a bit like the fire triangle, where you've got oxygen, a fuel source, and heat. If you remove any one of those, then you can't create a fire. It's very similar with the pest triangle. If you remove food, water, harbourage or heat, then it's going to be difficult for any pest to proliferate. So that's how we would use it to sorry, I'm getting disturbed out with people trying to get in. Yeah, if you remove any one of those, it makes it difficult for them to survive. So we're trying to use integrated pest management principles to control the infestation, because using bait alone or traps will not solve the issue. So we've got to really inspect and find out what they're feeding on, where the water is, and try and establish how we can limit that and reduce the carrying capacity of the environment. That's imperative. So if we have a look at the video here, how many times have we come across that with the drainage bungs missing from the base of a bin, and the rats are getting up and feeding? And within this bin area, there's a central drainage area where they can get access to water. Hit the bin at this point, and then the rats come scurrying out. I'm sure Birmingham's got plenty of sites like this at the moment. And right next to that bin is a sort of fencing that's right next to a whole lot of vegetation. So the rats have got the harbourage, they've got the water, and a regular food source. So left unchecked, the population, if the carrying capacity is there, they will breed continuously. You won't get any stopping it. Providing there's a plentiful supply of food, there's enough harbourage for them, and enough water to sustain the population. This rat's actually looking at a trail camera. It's you can see it's got a neophobic response to it. You can see that it's checking it out, it's sniffing the air as well, roundabout. It's a bit wary of it. So whenever we're going into sites, we also want to look at their sanitation. So we've identified where they've got their food, we've identified where there's water, there's harbourage, whether that's in the building structure or external vegetation. We want to have a look and see what they're actually utilising internally if they've managed to get in there. So in this case, this one on the left, these bags of flour, this was in a distribution centre, and they've been chewing through bags of flour, 25 kilogram and 16 kilogram bags of flour used for pizza dough, and the rats were just mauling it and treading through the flour and displacing it. So you're able to follow the footprints within the flour as to where the harbourage area was. Also, check slow moving lines of stock. These items really should be stored up high, so because they're not rodent proof, or they're slow moving stock, so there's the facility for them to hide and harbour in there, or to actually damage the stock to get access to food. Without doing any sort of environmental control, what you find is you end up with toxic baits being applied here. You can see at the top of, just get my laser pen, you can see here they've applied rodenticide here, then here, and here, and it has really no effect because the population bounces back over a period of time. Thus, they're able to breed because there's plentiful supply of food. However, as soon as you start to put integrated pest management principles into place, removing food, increasing sanitation, fixing bins, fixing drains, clearing vegetation, then it suppresses the population. There always will be an element of rat activity in the area, but you can reduce it down even greater by using these principles. So it's got to be used in conjunction with chemical control. These are the back streets of Glasgow, by the way. That's Sauchiehall Street. I think what happens is at night the restaurant workers are going outside and just launching the bags because they're frightened of the rats. They're actually encouraging them. That's Birmingham at the moment. That's going to cause some significant problems when they come to clean all of that up. It's going to displace the rat population, and then the call-outs are going to go through the roof at that point because they will be starving them of food and harbourage, and they're going to want to get inside homes. So they're going to have to do some control measures, or they will be doing it at this moment in time, but whether it'll be enough to stop the households round about being infested in businesses, I don't think so. It's a ticking time bomb. Tools of the trade. Can anybody spot the problem there? This guy is a tool. He's going to end up with, a problem. But we have some useful tools that we can use while we are doing our inspections. So while we're going about sites looking for evidence of rodents, we can utilise thermal imaging cameras to try and gain an idea of how they're getting in and where they're harbouring. So these photos were taken in a cash and carry, and here we have rat flavoured crisps. The rats are nesting inside the box, defecating and urinating all over the inside of it. And by using the thermal imaging camera, we're able to see that there was infrared radiation being passed through the cardboard. This was taken outside, and the rat was dispatched. This was in Glasgow. Again, so you can see here that the rats are moving around a sort of fence line. And you can see how they're able to use things within their environment to gain access to harbourage areas. So this is a bridge at the side of the M8. The rats were climbing up the metal fencing and able to disappear under a ledge in the bridge. So without the thermal imaging camera, you wouldn't have been able to have seen where the rat was harbouring. And this really highlighted to the client the importance of good sanitation and the removal of harbourage. The rat obviously jumped out from that harbourage area underneath the bridge and is now on our concrete sort of plinth. This one at the bottom right, you can see. So it's sat on top of there, and you can see how it's using its environment to get around. It's just going to shimmy down the wall. Anybody that says that brown rats aren't good climbers, well, haven't witnessed them in action. So you can see it's harbouring under waste pallets of cardboard. So really, they should be removing this on a regular basis to remove it. The rat did actually run across and gain access underneath one of the vans. It probably ended up in there chewing the loom apart, because they tend to make the covering of the wires out of a cellulose plant-based material now, so the insulation's made out of that, so the rats tend to chew through it. This is the concrete plinth that they were sat on, and they were disappearing up and under this area of the bridge here. So thermal imaging is good to try and ascertain what runs they're using and what they're using within the environment. You can also look for building fabrication defects, so hot airflow or cold airflow through a building. You can sometimes ascertain where defects are, where there's sort of gaps in cladding. Where you've got cladded walls as well, you can see there's some striated markings within this thermal imaging picture here. And lo and behold, when you tear the actual sheeting off the wall, the mice have managed to create this gallery and network of nesting sites. And you can see it's heavily smeared as well. So it's been used for a considerable period of time. So in terms of thermal imaging, I know we're talking about rodents, but it can be used for other things as well. So for instance, fox surveys, doing rabbit surveys, trying to ascertain the population numbers. Birds, looking underneath bridges to see what the population's like, can report that back to the client and justify why it needs netting. Fly infestation, so if you've got fungus gnats where you've got water penetration through a flat roof, or you've got water leaking in to the brickwork of a building. Plaster beetles, sorkids and wood-boring insects can also be detected, and I said before, proofing issues. So it's quite handy when we're doing our inspections. I know this is a pretty old hat, using UV torches and dust to try and find out where rodents are moving to detect track marks. You can use either dust in a puffer bottle or in a decanting pot like that, where you can put small quantities down to try and find out where they're moving. Or you can use the fluorescent gels as well. These are good for vertical surfaces, trying to get dust onto that type of surface, it wouldn't work. So things like racking and things like that, if you were to put this onto racking, you'd see where the mice are climbing up. But with our new baits, they have fluoro technology into it where the droppings will actually fluoresce, which is great, especially when dealing with rats. If we can find out where the latrine is, if we were to put bait or traps in close proximity to this, it means we will get better control or quicker control even. Ferret cam, that's also a very useful tool when carrying out our inspections. Looking within wall cavities. This is the rear of a sort of toilet where they've got this flexi tubing on. The rats have managed to get up it and chew their way through it. Now, without the aid of the camera, you wouldn't be able to see completely in there. You'd have to tear off all of the trunking to access it. This is very good for inspection chambers as well. Below some of the pipework, there could be defects under that, so you can have a look into the inspection chamber underneath the cowling round about the cover. Once it's been lifted, if you have a look under there, you might be able to find proofing defects there, which you wouldn't be able to see normally when opening the lid. Most people open the lid, look down and go, no, it's clear. However, there could be proofing defects there, which you want to be 100% sure to eliminate. This was in a restaurant where I stuck the camera into the wall, and you can see the mouse is scurried in behind us, disappearing into the building fabric there. You can see that there has been activity there. You know, to the trained eye, you can see the smear marks running across this roughened piece of breeze block. The smear marks all along the cables here, where they disappear into the wall cavities. This is chronic infestation having telltale signs like this. So in terms of chemical management, we need to really look at formulations and pick what's the best formulation for the given situation or the rodent species. The active ingredient is mixed with an edible base bait, so grain or pasta, something like that, and then they would add dye to it, usually blue, red, or green. This means that the rodent feces will be stained, so we can tell whether or not they have been ingesting the poison. If you were to do an autopsy on a dead rat, you'll find that the internal sort of bowel and our intestine will be stained the color of the rodenticide as well. Has mold inhibitors as well, so when it's put into a damp environment, it means that it won't go moldy. And we also put Bitrex to stop persons consuming poison. If anybody's ever been on a course with me, I always get people to try a Bitrex strip. It's really quite nasty. It takes quite a bit to get rid of the taste of it. But you can see here we've got block formulations. They are very good for like sewer baiting or securing and staking in boxes. Water when it's a very dry environment, so a liquid bait. If there's an absence of water and it's dry somewhere like a mill, that would be ideal. Grain bait is great for burrow baiting. Get the actual pesticide to the pest, get it deep down into the burrow using a piece of flexible garden hose and a funnel. You can get it deep down into the burrow and get them to consume it. If you're finding that you're getting aversion to actually taking bait, then we've got rodenticide foams and also gels and pasta bait sachets as well. So you've got quite a bit in your armory to try and control pests or rodents. So I've went through a few of these, but there's benefits and limitations to both. With any formulation. So loose grains usually the most palatable for rats. However, if it's spilled, it's difficult to remove. Removal at the end of the treatment can be sometimes difficult. Block, easy to secure, easy to apply. It's very, very quick. However, if it's not staked down, then it can be translocated There's issues with palatability in some cases as well. Ours has less paraffin in it within the block, which means that it doesn't affect the palatability of the actual bait, which is great. Paste is very palatable, can be secured using fixing rods, and you can easily detect teeth marks within it. Users used in adverse weather conditions, wet and humid cold, it can mean that it can fall out of the box. However, ours adheres to a lot of surfaces, and it isn't really that affected because of the consistency of it. Our paste is very highly lipid based, so it's got a lot of fats in it, which means it sticks to the inside of the box, so you don't get it falling out the box. Contact gel and foam. It's very easy to apply into restricted areas like into wall cavities. It's great for controlling large infestations because you'll have multiple individuals running through the actual product. It means if there's bait competition, if there's food competition there, you're not relying on them actually consuming poison directly. They'll be grooming it and licking it from the fur, which means you'll get a good kill. Only problem is it's hard to remove, and I'm sure if any of you have ever used the Kumatetrol foam, it does dry up after a period of time and can be spread around quite easily. Liquids, rats, they require water, so they'll need to have a steady supply of that. Said before, if there isn't any water there, you can put down these feeders, get them to drink from it, and you'll get good results with that. The only problem is over a period of time, it can evaporate and become concentrated, and it can be easily spilled as well. So why is it important to understand formulations? Well, first and foremost, it has to be safe for humans and non-targets. That's the first priority. Need to effectively deliver the active ingredient to the target species, so it's got to be attractive enough in comparison to what's naturally available to them or absent in the environment. Safe to the environment, so example, no grains in sewers where it would be flushed away or go mouldy and go mouldy. They found escar residues now in fish livers, so they're looking at that. So it's imperative that when we are sewer baiting, we're using blocks and we have it attached to a piece of wire and suspended, not in contact with the water, because said there is beginning to be residues of escars turning up in water. It's got to comply with cost regulations and the ability to get enough coating of contact preps. So there's no point in putting it in a hole the size of a mini metro. It has to be where the rats are passing through and they're going to actually touch it and come into contact with it. One of the things that I would look at before applying any anticoagulant is the resistance status within the area. So you can go on to the Rodenticide Resistance Action Committee website. That's the website address there. You can punch in your postcode and put down what particular active ingredient you're using, what type of formulation you're using. They ask you how often you're turning up, and it will give you a heat map round about an area and tell you the resistance status of the species that you type in. So it will do both rats and mice. So that'll tell you whether or not you're just simply feeding rats. I had one chap that had been feeding rats for 6 months on difenicum in central London, and nobody's turning up and couldn't figure out why, and he'd never heard of this particular website. But now he knows about it. He would check that before going and applying any rodenticide. The worrying thing is in certain areas of the country, we've got this L120Q resistance gene from both parents, that's paternal and maternal. This is worrying because it means that all the susceptible rats are dead now, and that all you've got left is these pure breed resistant strains. So it is worth checking on the website about the resistance status. You can have a look on the website as well, and there's a ready reckoner as well for resistance in certain areas of the country, what genetic markers are present, and to what active ingredient. So behavioral resistance, this is a problem for a lot of pest controllers. I've had pest controllers nearly in tears as a result of mice not wanting to go into the box. They're not playing fair. So they're running round it, over the top of it, running through it, but not consuming any poison. So this phenomenon was first realised in the West Midlands. It was called WMBR, so West Midlands Behavioural Resistant Mice. And this phenomenon occurred particularly around about the Bull Ring in Birmingham, where they weren't consuming poison. And this was allowing individuals to survive anticoagulant treatments, which was worrying and quite distressing for the pest controllers. They were reluctant to take any poison at all. And we'll come on to one of our baits and relate it back to this particular type of behavioral traits that mice have. So there's very few published scientific papers or studies have been done on behavioral resistance, but it has been, there's a hypothesis, it's been postulated that a significant part of resistance is due to this L120Q focus of anticoagulant resistance in central southern England, and it has a behavioural component. This is in every major city in the UK. Down the west end of Glasgow, you've got mice that just will not enter boxes and won't entertain cereal-based bait. So they're the ones that are left to breed, and subsequent generations also have this behavioural trait because they have this resistance. They prefer high fat foods, things like, and high protein, so cheese, chicken, tuna fish, and they have an aversion to cereals. Makes sense, really, because living in a man-made environment, like blocks of flats, houses, warehouses, they're basically feeding on what we're feeding on. So they would rather eat these high fat foods and high protein. So what happens when you look at this, and it is lunchtime, you begin to salivate. So your mouth is filling up with saliva and you're releasing an enzyme called alpha amylase. Alpha amylase breaks down complex carbohydrates and starches, which allows you to digest cereal-based products. It's exactly the same with mice as well. However, in behavioral resistant mice, they lack this alpha amylase. So they can't break down the food as easily. And it causes, if anybody's celiac or knows anybody that's celiac, it causes a distension of the stomach, cause it's quite painful. So as a result of that, the mouse won't go back and feed. So that's why they have this aversion. You can see from this graph here that the WMBR mice, so the West Midlands Behavioural Resistance mice, they preferred cheese, chicken, tuna, peanut butter, and then canary seeds, but not as much because obviously it's cereal. Non-behavioural resistant mice, they would eat anything that was put in front of them. But you can see here there's a significant trait between the protein and fats. So when we're baiting, we need to decide on whether we're going to use a chronic anticoagulant or we're going to use one which is acute. So when we use a chronic anticoagulant, this is termed as saturation baiting or surplus baiting. These are multiple feed anticoagulants, so you have to keep going back to top up the bait stations. There's usually more poison within each bait point as well, and you have to follow up on a more regular basis in order to ensure that there's enough poison there to control the population that's present. If you don't, what happens is they will become bait shy, so they'll become aware because they've taken this sublethal dose. They may be feeling ill as a result of it, and over time they'll build up a tolerance to it. So it means that they can ingest more of it. Yes, it will kill them in time, but it takes longer to get it under control. So any break in that control program will result in you having to follow up, and it will prolong the actual treatment, which has an impact on the environment, because the longer the rodenticide is down, the more likelihood there is of secondary poisoning or primary poisoning if the bait's dragged out of a bait box. So usually a control program involving chronic rodenticides is over an 8-week period. 8 visits over a 3-week period to gain control. So it's quite a few visits you're having to do and collect carcasses in between. It's important to document that you're searching for rodent carcasses. Check within a 100-meter radius of where you're actually baiting and collect any carcasses and document that on your report. And always remember to follow the crew guidelines and do an environmental risk assessment before you start doing any baiting outside. They're now collecting fox carcasses as well in Scotland and testing them. And there's quite a significant amount of AVKs and SCARs within the fox population. So it shows that they're predating on the rodents and taking sublethal doses potentially of anticoagulant, which is concerning. So multi-feed actives are these first generation anticoagulants, so cumatetrol, chlorphenisone, and warfarin. SCARs, bromadiolone, difenicum, and diethylone. So you have to keep going back, topping them up. Pulse baiting is another treatment strategy. These are used for single feed anticoagulants. Only for baits where the bait is sufficiently potent that a rat or mouse can eat a lethal amount in a single feed, so a single setting. These are more toxic. However, you can gain control quicker because you're not having to stretch it out over that period of time. You're not having to do as many applications of rodenticide as well. So it will save you time, it will save you money, and it will get quicker results as well. Although it's more toxic to the environment, you'll have it down for a shorter period of time, which means the chance of exposure is less. That sounds crazy, having something more toxic down, but it makes sense when you think about it. It's better to have it down over, like a 2-week period rather than it being detracted over a long period of time. So we have new baits that we're offering. So we've got this particular bait here, Diavolon Dual, and it's a pasta bait with fluoro no phobia technology, and this is to do with the actual dyes that are put into the pasta bait. It means it's not detected, which it further enhances palatability. It also has these small parts within it which increases foraging and bait consumption. Each of the baits is in a 15-gram bag, and it consists of both bromadiolone and difenicum. Now, one of the good things about having both active ingredients is if they're resistant against one and not the other, it'll do the job. It will kill them, even though it's 25 parts per million. However, with the two of them in the same formulation, it has this kind of synergetic effect on the rodent population that you're trying to control. So it does actually enhance the properties of the active ingredient. We've done studies on this. We also have it in block formulation that's got ridges on it. That encourages gnawing behavior. As we know, rodents, roder means to gnaw, and they will like to gnaw on these roughened edges that's been extruded around the block, which also increases bait consumption. And I said before, it's got less paraffin wax within it, which increases palatability as well. And it's got luring compounds in it. So it does smell slightly, which will entice the rat to feed from it. And here's some studies that have been done on this particular formulation using the dual active ingredients, both diphenochrome and bromadiolone. And diavalon, the one I was just talking about there, is in the red. And you can see that this is percentage mortality. This is within a lab. And you can see that on day 2 after consumption, we have just 60% mortality. Day 3, 90%. No, sorry, 80%. And day 4, we have 100% mortality. Whereas brodifacoum and diphenochrome, we still have population left feeding on the poison. So they are a very good product. It's a very good way of administering those 2 active ingredients. Also works equally well for mice as well. You can see that on day 3 there was 100% mortality there. The other good thing about this particular formulation and the dual active ingredients in terms of environmental impact, so a 20-kilogram dog would have to consume 444 blocks of 50-gram bait blocks. That's what they would have to consume. That's 6,666 grams of poison. When you compare that to diethylone, bromadiolone, brodifacoum, and fluclomifen, it's a lot more. So that's good because it doesn't have as much of an environmental impact. Single feed anticoagulants for pulse baiting. I said before about behavioral resistant mice. This is great for behavioral resistant mice because it's very rich in lipids, so it's got a lot of fats within it, which is great because it's moist. It comes in a Colkin tube, so it's easy to apply. There's no resistance to bromadiolone, which means you'll get good results in terms of killing. With mice, it's 5 grams in either side of your bait station, 2 meters apart for high infestation, or for low level infestation, 5 meters apart. But again, 5 grams in either side. For rats, 50 grams in a secured tamper resistant bait station, spaced 10 meters apart. And when it's high infestation, 5 meters apart. Again, no resistance to this product within the rat population. Can also be applied into herbage as well. So because it's in a Colkin formulation where you can just basically pump it into the wall cavity or into a floor void, inaccessible places where the rodents are moving, it means then if you've got mice that are averse to going into bait stations, they won't need to. They'll come across it and they will feed from it. So it's a way of breaking both genetic resistance and behavioral resistance as well. Also comes in a pasta bait formulation sachet as well, brodifacoum. Again, these both of these products are 50 parts per million, so it's not like Talon, where Talon's been reduced to 25 parts per million. This is still the optimum strength product, so which is good. Both of them can be used in and around buildings. Again, this is very moist and palatable and has these small bait particles within it, which increases foraging and feeding. They come in 15-gram filter paper dose sachets, so that actually allows the smell of the bait to be emitted through the actual cover as well. We also have it in an extruded block. Again, very palatable, low amounts of paraffin. It's good in wet environments or moist environments, so it's very, very stable. And again, 50 parts per million. This is a 25-gram block, so this is larger than our competitors, or other blocks that are on the market, which means you're actually using less product. You've got more of it down, so you'll save on time and save on prep as well. You get better levels of control because you're going to have the amount of poison there to control the population. We also have Rodent whole wheat grain as well. Again, 50 parts per million, and great for burrow baiting to reduce that neophobic response in rats in and around building. Yeah, it's got special absorption technology in it as well, which allows the active ingredient to penetrate through the actual husk and into the germ, which means that when they're consuming it, if it's being dehusked, it means they will be getting that lethal dose of active ingredient. We have technical specification sheets on all of our products as well. So if anybody wants any information on them, then we have these available, and it's just a case of contacting area salesperson, and they will give you information on it. And we also have some special deals on some of the products as well that we have in. Some of them we're still waiting to come in, but we do have some of these baits in stock at the moment. Thank you very much. If anybody's got any questions.
Thanks, John. I can't see any questions in the Q&A, but you guys can also unmute if you prefer to ask a question live, and that's also an option as well if you prefer to do that. Terry, I can see that you've unmuted yourself. Would you like to ask a question?
Yeah, hiya. First of all, the Q&A part doesn't seem to be working, so people might struggle to get in there.
Apologies. Okay.
But I was just wondering if you've got any specific recommendations against black rat with your new products.
Oh, you're on mute, John.
I need to have a look at the label to see if it's for black rats first. That's one of the things that they are so new. I haven't actually had them actually physically in my hand.
Fair enough. I'll jump on the website, mate.
Cool. Terry, we'll take that as an action and come back to you on that though.
Yep.
Yeah.
No worries.
Brilliant. Any other questions for anyone else? No?
No. That was easy.
But no, thank you everyone for joining. As part of joining the webinar, one of you lucky winners will be selected as a prize winner. So yeah, watch out for your emails, and yeah, if you're a winner, you'll be identified and notified. And yeah, if you've got any other questions, obviously you've got John's details, and yeah, we look forward to seeing you in the next one. Thank you, everyone. Have a good day. Bye-bye.
Thank you very much. That was very enlightening.